Hey, great day, y'all. Welcome back to the podcast. My name is Dr. TK, licensed clinical psychologist and therapist business coach. So, I want us to slow things down a bit and talk about what it truly means to build a business for growth, for profitability, and also feeds your life. And so, I embrace personal development in the morning. And one of my biggest takeaways this week that stood out was this: every activity that I do in my business, I should be asking myself, is this actually getting me closer to my client or customer saying yes? So when you think about your time spent doing things, creating things in your business, sometimes it's considered busy work, but the reality of it is there's no direct return on investment, AKA time, when it comes down to growing your revenue or growing your client base. And so that question actually had me thinking a lot this week because here's the thing: when I look at the people who I serve, which are mental health providers across the country, such as licensed psychologists, marriage and family therapists, LPCs, mental health counselors, social workers, and all the other titles in between, service providers right now are really trying to grow a business. And let's be real, we are some of the smartest people in the room. When you think about it, we can meet a stranger, we can assess that stranger in sometimes 1 hour, ask the right questions, and come up with a conceptualization, fancy word for a picture of how that person became the person that they are today. And so when I think about the therapist as a person, one of the things that I talk to them about is because they're so smart, they're constantly trying to plan the outcome. Does this sound familiar? Is this you? Do you try to map everything out? Do you try to move faster? Do you try to experiment? Now, that may be a no because sometimes we're risk averse, right? But sometimes we do so much and we're figuring it out as we go. And the goal is that we be able to adjust that. But the problem is a lot of therapists are not allowing themselves to actually experiment. So it made me start thinking that there are two different types of clients, AKA therapists, that I actually see win in business the most. And let me be clear, win is not just money. It's a lot of different areas that runs in your business that helps you generate and keep the money coming. So bucket number one clinician is the one who actually comes to me for coaching and they still have a 9 to 5 job. So what I want you to do is see if you fall in one of these two buckets, especially if you are in one of our coaching programs. So let's just think about it like case study A, the full-time entrepreneur as well. So when I think about what all these people have in common, these clinicians are very patient. They are truly invested in documenting the journey because they want to see how much they've grown over time. They're not in a rush. They also understand that building a business takes time. I'll call it a marathon. They're not trying to rush and build something in 60 days and it has to have a serious ROI on their bank account, on their whole life, on legacy wealth building, or it's not worth it. They are truly taking one step at a time. And they are not trying to, this is key, overwhelm themselves. They're not trying to do too much, right? They got a job. And so then we have case study B, the second group of people, which are the ones who have already tried something. They already started the stream of income. They already started the private practice, and they've actually, for the most part, made some money. Now, for these individuals, they have gotten clients. They have launched a product or a service, but then they hit a revenue plateau, which is why they then come into our community. Because some of our communities are blended and then some of them are strictly for those at a particular level. But the program that's blended, which is focused on solo practice, we actually serve more licensed therapists who already have a practice, but they don't have any systems, which means that when they want to step away and add a stream of income, they realize that they are at capacity, they're tired, life is lifing. But the truth is, because they didn't take the time to build systems and everything was a sprint for whatever reason, they can't step away from the business no matter how much they want to. And so they also do not know the how to get to the next level. So we have systems missing, but then we also have lack of knowledge and skill set missing. And because of all of that, they tend to be more open to, okay, now I'm ready to learn because I done made all these, I call them learning lessons, but they call them mistakes, and I'm tired. And sometimes as entrepreneurs, that is the best time to get help because then you're actually going to move and do the work. So what happens with this group is they're very receptive. Now, there is a third cluster of individuals who left their job too early. But we're not going to get into those individuals, but they just look drastically different and their outcomes look different. But we are focusing on those who, for the sake of me looking at my analytics of serving over 3,000 therapists, I'm looking at those who were winning based off of their metrics and forms that they were filling out, telling us the success they were having in their business every single month. So let me tell you how I actually measure success, because this is really key when you're looking at your business success. Because when I think about like the last 8 years that I've been hosting mentorship and coaching programs for mental health providers, I don't just look at money, AKA revenue. I don't just look at your caseload and say, oh my gosh, you got a full caseload to your desire and you're winning. I also don't look at, what you've just launched, because anybody can technically launch something and put something out. It doesn't mean that it is successful or that it will even become profitable. But we look at tangible and intangible success. So when you think about intangible, because everybody's chasing, to be honest, tangible, like I want to be able to touch my debit card and earn the money. Okay. But intangible is the actual thing that's going to grow you as the business owner, that then is excited to do the things that you need to do to make more money and do the things that you need to do to grow your business. So intangible things are the things that are growing internally inside you, such as your mindset, your relentlessness, your ability to not throw in the towel because you tried something one time. And because the person who you bought it from said it worked for 5 other people, you automatically assume, oh, it's going to work for me. But you don't know what skill set those other people had before they had access to that product or service. You don't know what their time management skills are. You don't know what other coaching programs or products they had purchased before. So what we saw was a level of internal growth from both of these two groups of people like no other, because we were able to talk to them. So because again, I have been seeing them for a very long time, I had saw that they had did a few things like build their confidence. They built systems. They learned how to experiment without being so, oh my gosh, I'm allergic to taking any risk. If you're an entrepreneur, you entered into a risky career track. Okay. And so they also learned how to adjust and pivot and tweak, which means that they understand that the first time or second time that I put something out there, or I put myself out there to get a therapy client, it may not be 1000% proof the first, second, or even the 100th time. You're in business and the world is evolving around you, which ultimately means that you will constantly be shifting with how you show up and the things that you implement and the things that you learn to execute in your business. So here's what happens next to those individuals who have internal growth is that, let's just say if they were in something for 90 days, 6 months, or a year, whatever they define as their next season, they then took off. So for example, someone may have went through our live sessions and our course vaults with these short training videos with a lot of templates, and let's just say 90 days. And they may be looking like, wow, like they grew internally. They didn't make as much money as they thought, or maybe they slowed down like the 9 to 5er and they were just building out the systems, because some people choose to do that. And then they go through what's called a second phase. So one thing that we started educating our prospective clients on is we take you through a journey technically for 2 phases, because we want to state the expectations that you're not going to have potentially, not saying it's not possible, all these outcomes that these other people had, because what you may not know is that this person worked in someone else's practice before they had their own. So they already were used to flexibility, time management, systems, and things like that. But now they have to slow down and create it for themselves. But they just probably were moving faster because they were not depending on a 9 to 5 job to tell them what to do. And so during that next season or that next phase, they were able to move a lot faster because now the information is no longer new. So if you've ever questioned, why am I not getting the results? I paid for it. I invested in it. I go to the live sessions. I submit my questions. If it is your first time being exposed to something, it is not going to come by second nature. And so those individuals also became more resourceful because now they're familiar with what they have access to. And instead of thinking like, oh my gosh, I am now learning from scratch, now they take it as, you know what? No, these next 90 days, I'm refining what I've already done. And so when I look back and look at the differences between individuals who are able to have intangible results, sometimes as a larger quantity than those who are just focused on the clients and the money, to me, this is the best way to grow your business because can't nobody take what's inside of you. So let me give you an analogy that's going to stick because all service providers, we all went to school. Okay. So I've been a college professor or was a college professor for 18 years, from high school kids getting college credit up to the dissertation process. And so when you think about writing a business, I want to use an analogy of you writing a paper, let's just say in grad school, right? So you don't just turn in the final version. You don't write it once unless you're risque and just turn it in. What happens over time? I know for myself, writing a dissertation or you wrote a thesis statement, or maybe it's an undergrad and you have different variations, is let's just say the professor said, I'm your professor, hey, submit your outline by Friday. So you create your outline, like your table of contents, what you're going to talk about in your paper by Friday. Then I give it back to you. And what I'm looking at is, okay, now that you have everything in order, I want you to take the next step. So I'm going to go back and forth every 7 days in a 15-week period. After the outline, I'm going to ask you to send me or turn in your intro. Then once we do your intro, I want you to strengthen up your thesis, your hook, your thesis statement. Then from there, I want you to write the body of your paragraphs of your paper. Then from there, and that may be a lot of exchange within itself, depending on how long the paper is, then I may have you now do the conclusion. Now that we have the conclusion, okay, now that you put all this together, and you should already have this, but I need you to format it, I want you to write out your references at the end in your appendices, okay? And so every step is actually a shorter way to build a beautiful presentation at the end called a 10-page, 20-page paper or dissertation, 100 to 500 pages book, where you were continuously getting feedback, and over time, you were getting 1% better every single step that you made. You didn't just turn in the final paper. So every step got revised and every step got better and better. So I really want you to think about this. How many drafts did you go through in grad school for just one class and one paper? How many times did you tweak your work, tweak the title, tweak the thesis statement after you've written the whole thing? How many sessions did it take for you, if we're looking at clinical work now, to understand your client from a theoretical perspective, like in real life, not just a textbook? None of that happened overnight. But now we're trying to build a business overnight. Really think about that. That is where the disconnect is. And if you could address that, the other stuff in business actually might come easier if you can acknowledge that having a business and growing it every step of every phase that you want to go in, whether it be money, clients, hands off, building a team, going from a solo practice to group practice, whatever it might be, it's going to require revisement. It's going to require you to get better at developing a skill set that you may not have or absolutely have never learned. And this is the part that truly gets me, okay, is I am again working with the smartest people. I'm not talking about a credential. I'm saying your ability to meet a client and conceptualize their whole life and provide strategies and listening at the same time. And like, this is magical stuff, okay? And not everybody can do it well. But what tends to happen is the smartest people are actually the ones that are the most scared to experiment. They overthink, they plan, they analyze every single possible outcome. What if it works? What if it doesn't? What is it going to cost me? What does it mean about me if it does not work? Well, what happens if it does work? Like, it's a whole process. And I really want you to ask yourself, if this has been your pattern, how much further have you or would you have actually gotten if you would not have went through those whole processes of thinking? How long has it taken you, if you have met your goal, to either get close to it or reach it? Is it longer than you expected? Because the people who are winning, they experiment. They're not afraid to mess up, because messing up actually makes you move faster and smarter the next time. They move, they execute, they adjust, they tweak. They know everything is not perfect. We're not just going to launch it one time. And they do it again and again. That's that relentlessness, okay? So these individuals understand one thing, that the education got you your license along with study habits, but it is not the same in terms of your education that's going to build your business. You can do half of your job in your business in terms of like doing therapy, but to build a business, that is not what you went to school for. So if you are ready for an actual shift, this is my formal invitation, depending on when you're watching this, to invite you to the Built to Last 3-day virtual experience. It is live. Replays will be available. It will be focusing on 2 levels, solo private practice and making sure that that is in order to then make room for the second level, which is introducing clinical streams of income. I will be talking about systems, mindset, growth, money, all the things that profitable businesses for mental health providers require for you to not intentionally be burning yourself out. And so we are going to be talking about things like, who do you need to become, not just the licensed provider? What do you need to do to then get to the next level? So what do you need to have access to, whether that be knowledge, skill set, et cetera? What do you actually want? We will be talking about that. And so, yes, that's the woo woo. That's I call it Barbie land. Because if you are not connected to your dream, you're not going to have a why. And then we'll also be sharing some roadmaps that you can actually see yourself, like get in a car. And if you go through this roadmap, how you can get to the other side and get what you want. And so in this live experience, we call it boot camps as well. I will be stepping into the role of your business clinical supervisor for a total of 3 days. It is starting on May 11th. We will be going live for 3 days. The replays, and it is absolutely free, will be available for a very limited amount of time. And so if you want to register so that you can stop overthinking and you can finally start moving, I would highly encourage you to check out the description box and register right now, because this is going to be a phenomenal experience, because I believe that if you truly want to have an abundant life and an abundant business, you want to build something that will last. All right. So if you're ready, save your spot. I really hope you enjoyed this podcast episode. Share with me in the comment section your biggest takeaway. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, follow the podcast, like this video, and I will talk to you in the next one. Bye.